So we used Zoom, and we used the breakout room feature, and we used the share the screen feature, and we used the chat feature. And we narrated the PowerPoint ahead of time so that all I had to do was click through, and most of the explanation was pre-recorded, except for a couple of places where we needed to give the instructions or take questions and things like that. So we use some of those different features of Zoom. So this was an example of a student, an actual assignment to do a Zoom presentation. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments? It's just a small group with us here, so if you'd like, you can unmute to discuss anything.
So Kelly, can you tell us a little bit about how much preparation time might have taken to make this happen? I realize you worked in a group, but what if you were just doing it by yourself? What do you think?
It would have taken quite a bit of time. We had the content already compiled, but you have to get what you're going to teach. We had the lesson plan design. We had done this for a previous face-to-face using the same content. So we already had some of that information, but the background research, you know, on what you're going to teach, how you're going to put it together, finding graphics, finding or creating your own slides, right? Putting those things together would have taken quite a while. We had one person in the group who was very, very good. That's Marcia Ivy. She's very good at the PowerPoint and getting the animations in the PowerPoint. So we had one person finding the pictures and putting in the words on the PowerPoint, and then Marcia would go and do a lot of the animations. So, you know, making things move and highlighting certain things. That takes a while to learn. So she had those skills already. And then I did the narrations, recording onto the PowerPoint slides ahead of time. The nice thing with these things is, and I've done some of these for my own classes in the past, if you do a really good job at the presentation, and it's content that you teach every time, like every semester that you teach your class, you always do this lesson on a particular topic, you don't have to put the time in the next time around. If you make it really good the first time, you can reuse some of these things. You can put them in My e-learning and that kind of thing. So when you don't know how to do something, like I'm not particularly good at the animation, I just know the basics of the animation, sometimes you have to take 20 minutes to sit down and Google it and look up a YouTube video that explains something, or there are lots and lots of resources that explain how to do different things or troubleshoot in the software, and so you need that time. We also spent a good amount of time pre-rehearsing, running the presentation. In our presentation, we would have had about 4 or 5 groups, breakout rooms, and we had one of us in each one to share the screen to kind of speed that process up. So we had to rehearse that and make sure we could get this down in the 10 minutes. So I'm not sure, Margot, that I could quantify and add up all the hours that it took, but it did take a long time. But having done it once, I think if we had to do another one, it would fall together much more quickly, because we would have picked up those skills of editing the PowerPoint and using the Zoom features a little more smoothly.
I think what's really important is how interactive you can make these virtual sessions be. They don't have to be just using the chat room or you know, using a polling thing, that you can really make them quite interactive. You just have to sit down and think your lesson through. And I think probably at this point in time, a lot of people are still more into the lecture mode. So this kind of skill set takes time to develop, as you guys knew from going through Cuddle. So.
Right, and I think, and even right now, I'm still learning things. I did my first online class, fully online last night with my students. I tried the polling feature, which I tried at the beginning of this presentation, and it didn't work. But
I'll tell you that it actually did work. It was behind, it was, in my computer, it was behind my screen.
Okay.
So if that happens to anybody, you just have to click, make it smaller, and it was behind it.
Okay, all right. Well, I could actually launch it. I'll launch it right now and see if it shows up.
Wait, can I?
There.
Oh, never mind.
It's there now.
I did it, but when I tried to submit it, it didn't submit.
Yeah.
Okay, because I
Yeah.
did shut it off at a certain point when we thought it wasn't working. Okay, can you guys see it
Okay.
now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I just relaunched it because this was going to be my pre-test, my pre-check-in to see how people were feeling or if people's prior experience.
You might have to refresh it.
Okay, yeah, I
this,
just did. I just turned it back on.
okay, right.
See if you guys can see it there anywhere.
I'm seeing it.
Okay, so you can go ahead and if it's possible, you can click the responses.
Okay. Could you, I came in late, but could you say how how do you go to make the poll and how do you do the breakout sessions?
Okay, sure. The poll I just discovered yesterday. I was in classes before online with other people who use the poll. The poll is available when you subscribe to Zoom and you pay a monthly fee. So I paid the
Oh,
monthly fee, which is $14.99 US. I paid for 1 month, and I can cancel it at the end if we're actually face to face again at that point. And then I looked it up online. I Googled how do I make a Zoom poll because I had no idea. And it walked me through step by step on the Zoom website, the help Zoom thing when I looked it up. It was said to go into the advanced settings and edit administration and then click something. And then it talked you through going through and creating your questions, how to add them in. So I tried it for the first time last night in a class and it worked well. The students really liked it. I did it before we started. I did it towards the end with some content stuff of what we had talked about. And it gives you feedback. So I'll show you if in a second if we've all checked. Two of you have put in your thing. So I'm going to end it and then I can share the results with you so you can see what percentage of people clicked on which answer. Okay, so we participated in a Zoom meeting. Some of us have hosted, but some not. Some of us, we've taught a class, asked students to do a presentation, record feature, etc. So you could see the different results based on what you guys checked. Okay, so that was kind of useful. I'm going to play around with it more. The nice thing is that I realize my students are just appreciative that I'm trying, and they like seeing my face. They like seeing this little bit of video at first, and they like seeing the PowerPoint slides with the share sound thing clicked, and we're listening to music. It's music history class we did last night, so the share computer sound made that an improvement on the audio quality. And the breakout rooms is also only in the subscribed version. And that is available when you have it on there. The breakout room button is down at the bottom where you see mute and video and share screen and all those things. So it lets you say how many rooms you want. So if you have more people, if we had 20 people, I might make 4 or 5 rooms with just a few people in each one. And it also says automatically you can break people up or manually. So if I wanted particular students in a particular room, I can actually move around the names and assign them to rooms. And then I can join the rooms. I can come in and out of the rooms to check in, to see how people are doing. And then there was also a broadcast option where I sent you guys a message. I don't know if you saw it, where I said we're going to be coming back in shortly.
I think so.
Okay. The one thing I couldn't do in the breakout room, if I had 4 or 5 rooms, is I'd need them to be able to share the document if they need to look at something like we did. So, but I realized once you start doing that in your class, the students get used to it and they know what to do. There's also a whiteboard option. You can have a whiteboard and you could draw things. They could draw things. You could make a diagram or something like that too.
But that's only in the paid version.
The breakout rooms and the polls are only in the paid version, but sharing the screen and the chat window and all these things are available in the free version. And the free version gives you 40 minutes, and it's a little bit irritating. The reason I paid for the full version was because I got fed up of making new links and having everybody have to come out and come back in when we needed to start.
So every faculty is supposed to have access to a Zoom account. So you could reach out to the faculty and ask, but I don't know how many licenses each faculty got. It's supposed to be one license and you're supposed to be able to go on, all of you, to do your thing. But whether that is actually happening, we didn't have a license. So we were using my license, but now we do have a license, which is a good thing. The other thing is that any of these kind of resources that you decide to purchase, you can take it off your study grant. So so that $500, $150, or if you can, shut it down over the summer when you're not actually teaching, or the semesters you're not teaching, then you just submit that when you put your study grant money in for the year.
Right.
So that's
Okay.
a
Full-time staff. Yeah, for full-time staff, we have the book grant, right?
Book
Yeah.
grant.
My
That's what I
husband,
meant, the
my
book
husband
grant.
did that before because he was using it for things, and he got his refund for that. But I only paid for 1 month. It's going to automatically renew, but if I cancel it before that, it'll just be the month. So I can just
Yeah.
opt to how many months I want to pay, and then I
Mhm.
can submit that to get the money back.
Sorry, how much a month?
It's 15 US.
15.
Yeah, so I use my credit card to pay for it, and
That's not bad. 15 years is not bad.
no, it's not bad for the month, and especially the next couple months for us. I
Right.
I don't have to make all those extra links and meeting invitations, and I
Right.
get the breakout rooms and the polling and things. I'm just trying different things every day a little bit more. The students are encouraging me. They're very supportive. No, miss, it's okay, it's all right, we'll get it, and I get better each time I try different things. So I think we have to look at it that way and not be a perfectionist and think it's going to be perfect the first time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the other
Right.
thing that's really useful that I've done, that I did for this semester too, is I use Zoom without anybody in my meeting to just make a recording.
Okay.
I went in, I used my video like this with my Golden Gate Bridge, so you can't see my shelves and things behind me.
Right.
I don't have to tidy up my office. And I recorded a video message to my students and just said, this is what's happening. Everybody's in this together. We're not going to have face-to-face classes, and this is how we're going to deal with particular classes that I'm teaching. We have some different ones. And then I sent the link around. I put it on my YouTube channel, and I sent the link to everybody, and they really appreciated it. They liked seeing me and hearing my voice like they're used to doing in class, and I got a lot of positive response from it. And you can also use it to record your lecture. If you want to do it beforehand, you can share your screen.
Mhm.
My husband's been doing that. He shares his screen, he records himself talking, he goes through all his slides, he explains everything, and then he puts it on my e-learning, so that if they can't attend the live face-to-face that he's going to do where they can ask questions and things, they could go there and just get the straight lecture.
I have a
Okay.
question. Sorry.
I was just going to say that this is, you'll find that Zoom is a little bit easier to use when you're doing the kind of things that Kelly's been showing us, as well as making your own recordings, because it drops down immediately into your onto your computer, or it can go into the cloud, and then you can put it into your video channel. Whereas in Blackboard, it's going to save it into the Blackboard system, and we're not 100% sure how much in there in each person's account will you be able to put all those videos. So that'll be an interesting thing to find that out. I think that they're going to have to expand the license to be able to put a lot of videos in each person's account. So so there's advantages and disadvantages. So if you're teaching a really big class, more than 100 students, you can't use Zoom because it only allows you to have 100 people in it, at least the ones that we can afford. The other aspect is that the Blackboard Collaborate allows you 250 students in it, but my question would be, if you have 250 students in, I hope that people aren't just going to just lecture and then that's it, because the students wouldn't be able to ask questions. So you have to figure out a different way to have some type of interaction, whether you record the session while you're doing it and then have them come in into groups or something like that. So there has to be a little bit more thought through that. And unfortunately, everybody's just push, and we, most people are just surviving in survival mode right now. So, so those are my thoughts.
Okay.
So
One
in
thing.
terms of
Yep.
sorry, Ms. Ramlal,
That's okay.
your preference would be Zoom over Blackboard.
Yes, I've used both. I was an online student. I did graduate programs in that were online, and I prefer the new version of Zoom at the moment. I think
Okay.
Zoom's a little bit ahead. The other advantage of Zoom is that, based on feedback from other people using it, is that the bandwidth usage is
Mhm.
less, especially if everybody turns their video off except the presenter, and
Right.
it's a little more stable and less likely to have lag and things when, like I said, I'm using music, so I'm showing videos and doing audio
Okay.
stuff. And so sometimes when the internet's a little overwhelmed, it can get choppy, whether it's coming from me or whether it's some of the students where they are. And I
Right.
think Zoom uses less, especially if they
Okay.
keep their cameras off. And as the presenter, I have the power to turn their cameras off, and I could mute people too if I need to, so that we can get quiet in the background and all of that. So it's useful. So I
Okay.
prefer Zoom.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and one tip that I had that I wanted to mention, if you do create something like how I have this narrated PowerPoint that I could reuse if this was what I was teaching in my class,
Mhm.
if you don't make any references to the current situation, like no COVID, no good morning, good afternoon, good evening, it's Monday or Tuesday, if you make a good quality uh, item, you can
Right.
reuse it in subsequent classes. I have
Okay.
I have had I did some makeup classes once a couple times a couple years ago using screencasting and things like that for when we were doing program review and we were all in meetings and couldn't have our normal classes sometimes. And I said, oh, well, we're doing this program review and this is happening, and sorry, I'm not in class, but and your assignment that's due next week will be due the next week, and I gave dates and stuff. But if I hadn't done that, I could have more easily used that video for a subsequent class or even for a review for students. And so I've got to
Right.
get in there and edit those things out. So
Yeah.
if you're really
Okay.
careful to be neutral about your content stuff and just have that by itself, you can do a separate, like my video where I explain what we're facing right now, and this is what's going on, and your projects are going to be due later, and that kind of thing. So if you separate those, it's more useful in the long run. And that big, heavy investment of time that you put in up front to make something that's credible
Mhm.
will pay you back years later down the line when you can reuse these things.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, Kelly, about the timings, because we're using some of the resources for CETL for teaching things, and I've had to go in and edit out CETL, or and sometimes you can't edit it out, so then you're stuck with it being in there. And so and I realized that as soon as I went to the first one, and I went, oh, that wasn't a smart thing on my part, was it, to do it that way? But I did it. So now then you have to judge whether you want to spend time editing or whether you just want to spend time redoing it, like re-recording it. The one thing that I would recommend everybody, if you're using PowerPoint, is to put your notes on your recording that you're going to do in the notes section, so that if you do have to re-record it, it's right there and you can just quickly do it. You don't even have to think. Just take out the references to whatever it was originally for and then just re-record it. So
Right.
I
And
have
I
a
did.
question. Sorry. I have a question about how you're accessing the recordings after, or how you're making them accessible to the students, because I
Okay.
can see them in my list of recorded meetings, but then how do I change it over and get it so they can get to it?
Okay. So if you hit record when you start or when you want to record, and then when you finish recording, it asks, or at the beginning, it asks you if you want to record to the cloud or you want to record to your computer. And I record to my computer so that at the end it automatically produces a file for me. And I get to specify, the first time I got to specify where I wanted it. So I just said, like everything else I have, it's on my desktop. But you could have a file, right? You could have a file where it goes in every time, and then you can get to it. Those files are relatively small, and those unedited, could just be put onto my e-learning, for example. You can upload those. That's what my husband is doing. I sometimes go into editing software, like I have a Mac, so I use iMovie but on the PC, you have your editing software. You can pull your video in there. The one I did with my introduction and things, I put my office hours and I put my contact information and things on bottom and made, headers and different things. I also cut out places where I said, where I was trying to think of what to say next.
Yeah.
But when I create that out of my iMovie, then it's a much larger file. So those, I keep them relatively short, less than 15 minutes, and I have a YouTube channel and I upload it to my YouTube channel. Then I post the link in my e-learning, or I can WhatsApp the link or email the link to the students. That takes another step. That's a whole Google how to create your own YouTube channel and walk through that and get used to it. But once you do that,
come and take Cuddle.
It's easier. Or come sign up for Cuddle, but that's still going to take you, a couple of semesters to get through.
But the unedited one, the one that just comes that it shows me it's processing the recording or whatever.
Yes.
That one I could actually take that link and put it on my e-learning.
Yes, you can upload it to my e-learning.
Okay. I didn't ever see a message that said cloud or computer. It's just been doing it to my computer.
Okay, it's possible the cloud option is there for me because I subscribed, probably. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
might be
that's why.
In my Zoom account, yeah.
I also see something in the top right corner when I'm looking at recordings that says almost like I only have so much left. So maybe it's recording to the cloud too, and I just don't know it. So how do I access the cloud?
You want to go to Google and type, how do I access cloud recordings in Zoom?
Okay.
And see what you find. And sometimes some sources are better than others. I used to be terrified of technology a few years ago. And then I did a few classes in technology for music teaching, and I felt much better because I realized everything is online. People have videos you can watch, and if you prefer reading and going through steps, they have the written part that you can walk yourself through. And most things technology-based, I can now get myself out of calmly, but not at the last minute. You don't do it just before you're ready to teach, or when you're right on the deadline. You have to take time to do those things.
So
okay, I have one more question. When you were teaching us how to do the share screen and you were circling things in red and pointing to things, how were you doing that?
That's a PowerPoint. I put that in my PowerPoint. That's an animation in the PowerPoint.
Oh, in the PowerPoint. Oh,
right. But you can do it on Zoom too. You can by the share screen. I think there's a blackboard, a whiteboard in the share screen option. There's a whiteboard. And you can draw things.
Yeah.
Right?
But I forgot you could do that on PowerPoint because I haven't done it in such a long time, because there's like a laser pointer and stuff also that I've used for presentations. But all of that stuff is going out of my head, things I know, because I'm cramming in too many new things, right?
Right. And that's what, you don't want to use them all at once. You just, every time you do it, you add a little more, try something else, or get an idea from somebody. My first class that I had wasn't really a class, it was a meeting just to talk about how we're going to do this, make sure they could log in and get their audio going and unmute themselves and stuff. And somebody in my class was writing on my PowerPoint with a marker, and I had to go into the back settings of Zoom to disable participants from doing that. So I learned how to set settings so that you enable different things. So every time I do a session, I'm learning.
Definitely. And I realized last night some of my videos were lagging, and it's because I told them to stay on video. It was just going to be a minute, and then now we're talking about things. It's like, oh, that was my fault. I'm the one that told them, stay on video, we're coming right back.
Right, and see, the extra video used your bandwidth. Right?
Yes. And the sound was fine, though. The sound came through really clear, but the video actually was quite funny because it was last year's class who I asked them if they would let me show them. And so it probably was really fun for them to watch the slow motion going with the regular speed music.
So that's why you want to put some of those videos into your YouTube channel, because it won't buffer as much.
Okay, right.
So actually, Kelly and I were talking about that the other day, and so it was a real short, like a 1-minute video, 3 1-minute videos that I put in, and the first one worked fine, but because I didn't tell them they didn't tell it when it was coming up, and they were all, off video at that point. But then when I I said, okay, everybody put your video back on, and we came back in to talk about what's happening. And I said I wanted to see their reactions to what they had seen and heard. And then I forgot to tell them to put their video back off.
Right,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you can actually do it yourself too. You can undo everybody's video, and you can mute
I
everybody.
heard you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you say that, and I thought, oh, I was supposed to remember that too. But you know, just
Right.
like you said, every
But
time
each
you
time, try and learn one new
forget and
thing.
remember. And,
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not overwhelmed.
Practice makes perfect.
It does. It does. And that's why Jean has been on with me. Another colleague, Janine Remy, has been on with me. My husband's been on with me, practicing, trying out things. You know, we get on and we try each other's things. Like, okay, let me show you my stuff that I'm going to use in my class, and then troubleshoot and try to preempt the problems. But they'll still arise when you're doing it. And then you just have to calmly try and figure out what's going on.
Well, and that's really all about knowing your learning environment. So when you know your learning environment, so this is an environment that you're teaching in, is once you know more about how it works, it becomes really easy, and you look like a smooth little presentator there. And they think, oh, she's been doing this for years, but you've only been doing it for a short period of time, right?
Right.
So,
And I learned the polls last night. So, you know, now I know if they can't see it, they've got to go behind the window and look for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks you guys for coming out. Are there any other questions, comments? Thanks, Sabrina. She found the thumbs up reaction. Thank you, Jean. And the
So
students
thank you
also.
so much.
Yep.
I was just going to say thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing your expertise in this with the rest of the university community.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'd call it expertise. It's more my experience, right? But thank you. Thank you. It was good to see you all this morning. And I will work on the video, so I'll send it to you, Margot. And
perfect.
And then if anyone else wants to watch it later, they can.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, thanks you guys. Yes?
So I have a group, I have group presentations coming up for the students. I'm just wondering how to do it using Zoom or Blackboard. I know. What would you suggest?
All right. Well, I haven't tried it myself. This was me as a student doing this one with my group. How big is your class?
Maybe about, that class is maybe about 22 students.
Okay, good. Right. So I think in this current situation, you may want to let them choose their own group. I don't know if you normally would assign them.
They've chosen the groups already.
Oh, good. Okay. So they can sign up for a free Zoom account and have 40-minute sessions. And this...
Oh, somebody's got a baby.
That's a baby?
How nice.
That's my baby, yeah.
Oh, so they can sign up for a free Zoom account, and they can meet each other online with Zoom. They will learn to set their meeting and get together, and everybody log in. And then whatever topics they have to do, whatever you've assigned them, you know, they then have to use whatever you want them to use, or you could leave it open to them, but maybe suggest that they could try making videos or using PowerPoint, or just presenting and sharing their screen with a document, or whatever it is that whatever your subject matter is, that recommend to them that they work on it early, no last minute, you know, last minute rush kind of thing, and that they do practice runs together so they can time the presentation, decide who's going to do what, and learn the features. Because you can set a meeting, and then you can hand over the hosting role to them, so that the whole class logs in at the same time to your meeting, and then you can pass hosting to one of the people in one of those groups, whoever they designate, and they can do their thing, and then you can take it back and put it to somebody else in another group. That's how Margot did it with the Cuddle class. We did have we had a few feedback audio issues with some groups. It wasn't this group that I was in, because we'd practiced our stuff and knew what could happen. When we used the breakout rooms, because we didn't have the breakout room feature on our version, Margot did the breakout rooms for us and you know, managed that process for us. And we had some people who were actually in the same room with each other, which hopefully they wouldn't be in the same room, but some groups, there were 4 people in the room at the same time. And that caused audio feedback. It also caused, it was only one computer logged in and they, it looked like one person in the breakout room, but it was really 4 or 5 people in the room together. And that was really challenging. So each person needs to be logged in separately on a device at the moment that they're doing the presentation and not sitting in the same room. But you could try it, you know, and
Well, no, nobody's supposed to be sitting in the same room now anyhow, so.
right, exactly. So hopefully they'd all be home somewhere on their phone or their tablet or their computer. It is going to affect some students differently, and that depends on their access to the technology and their internet, and how many people in the house are using all that internet and space and that kind of thing. It can be very challenging. It's challenging for some of us. It's challenging for some of the students as well. So I'd say maybe extend your deadline of when it's due and give them plenty of time to start working on it. I find my students at the moment seem quite bored with being home, and they're quite happy to have assignments to do again and lectures and things that they've got to get back to. They like that kind of normal, you know, with low pressure. They will welcome the week off with less pressure, but I think they're ready to resume. And if you really tell them realistically, unless you're already a technology whiz, some of them think they are, but if they haven't used the software before, it does take practice, and it will take longer than it would if they were going to just do a face-to-face classroom presentation where they could meet 2 days before and cram something together and, you know, that kind of thing. So that's my best advice. I'd love to see it when you get it done, right? If you record any of your sessions, yeah, and then we could share, you know, among staff to say, you know, how people are doing it differently.
Oh, that's a good idea, Kelly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody, and happy teaching.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yep. No problem.